Before he was elected Pope just 40 days ago or so, Pope Leo XIV was a bishop in Peru. He's, of course, from Chicago and spent a lot of time in the United States, but had been appointed as a bishop in Peru. And the diocese that he was a part of had some areas that were very wealthy, but also was a place of great material poverty. Stories are told of Pope Leo when he was the bishop there of going out and being with his people, sleeping on dirt floors, eating out of whatever was being offered to him. He saw with his own eyes, as many of you have, he saw with his own eyes what material poverty looks like. So I think it adds even more weight to a recent statement that he made in a homily that he gave in Rome just about a week ago. And he said that the greatest poverty is not to know God. The greatest poverty is not to know God. We see a little bit of poverty come out in the gospel. This crowd is gathered, thousands and thousands of people, and they're hungry. And Jesus is there, and the apostles are there, and there's a desire in the crowd to just eat something, a basic physical desire to be fed. So Jesus says to the apostles, feed them yourselves. And right there, they realize their poverty. They basically say, how are we supposed to do that? Thousands of people, and all we have are 5 loaves and 2 fish. There's no way we can possibly feed this many people. They admit their poverty. Of course, Jesus comes into that, right? He meets us where we are. He acknowledges that we are poor, and he does a miracle right there in front of them, taking those 5 loaves, those 2 fish, and with that very little bit, he feeds the 5,000. That right there is just an extraordinary miracle. One that as we read it, as you listen to it, should blow us away. The power of Jesus Christ, what he can do, even when given very little. But of course, there's more to it. Today is the solemnity of what's commonly known as Corpus Christi, the solemnity of the body and blood of Christ. It's a very particular day when the church says, let's really focus on the Eucharist, the bread of life that Jesus gives us each and every time we come to Mass, each and every time we go to adoration, each and every time we come into a Catholic church, right? He's here. He's present. I had the great privilege on Wednesday night of walking with some of our folks that are becoming Catholic this summer, and we did a little walk through the Mass. And one of the very first things I shared with them out on the front steps of the church was that the reason this church was built, as beautiful as it is, and the windows and the architecture, right? This building exists to be the house of God. It says it in Latin right on the front of the church. This is the house of God. This church was built to house the Eucharist. This church was built for the celebration of the Eucharist. This church was built so that you, in your poverty, could come here and be fed. Now, the saints also speak to this. Just a few of my favorites. St. Pius X, we have a window of him up in the choir loft. St. Pius X said that the Eucharist is the shortest and the fastest way to heaven. Soon to be St. Carlo Acutis will be canonized the saint this September. Died as a teenager, but he understood the Eucharist. He said, the Eucharist is my highway to heaven. I think about St. Padre Pio, who many of you have a devotion to. Padre Pio once said that the world would be better off without the sun than without the Eucharist. The world would be better off without the sun than the Eucharist? What would happen if the sun went away? We're dead. What would happen if the Eucharist went away? If we take Jesus at his word from John chapter 6, when he says, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you do not have life within you, then Padre Pio's quote makes a little more sense. But I'm especially struck by a quote from the great St. Francis of Assisi. Again, many of you with a devotion to him as well, speaking specifically to our poverty. St. Francis of Assisi said this. He said, what does the poor man do at the rich man's door? What does the sick man do in the presence of a physician? What does the thirsty man do at a stream? He said, what they do, I do. I do this before our Eucharistic Lord. I pray, I adore, I love. The Eucharist is the sacrament of love. When we receive the Eucharist often in the state of grace, when we spend time with the Eucharist according to our state in life, we're going to grow in love. Because the Eucharist is God himself, and God is love. And so this great sacrament of love is given to us. It's given for the poor. It's given for the hungry. It's given for us. In the presence of the Eucharist, and especially when we receive him, we are anything but poor. We are, in fact, rich beyond measure.